All right, so today I have a bit of a different kind of video going on. At the end of last season, I made my video going over my thoughts and builds for every weapon in the game once I got them all to Titanium Prisma. And now with the most recent Weapon XP update, I have everything Pyroclastic. So I figured this time I would do a tier list instead of just a copy and pasted version of last season's video. So this is every weapon through Season 2, and as you can see, I've created some very specific, unorthodox tiers for this video. So hopefully it's a bit more interesting than your typical S through F situation. So yeah, we got top tier here is I love this fucking weapon, or I fucking love this weapon. Next tier is it's meta, so yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty self-explanatory there. Next one is it's underused, but somewhat decent. So that'll be your sort of mid-tier category. Next we have kinda dookie, and lastly we have M44, which is incredibly self-explanatory. So yeah, that is the situation. Let's get going. So starting with the P90, this one's gonna go in kinda dookie. I feel like since the PP19 has come out, it's kind of left the P90 in a why would you use it sort of state. The time to kill isn't that great. It has less ammo, or I guess the same amount of ammo as the PP19. Just doesn't hit as hard, and yeah, it's just not that great. It's probably the lowest SMG you're going to see on this list, but it's usable, just not very good. Next up is the 1911, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't realize that the biggest shock on this list was going to come so early, but this is going in I fucking love this weapon. For whatever reason, the 1911 just feels so good. It feels like a strong, decent fire rate, semi-automatic pistol that reliably does what I need it to do. It doesn't, you know, let me down like the sawed-off does, even though the sawed-off's more powerful. The 1911 is my favorite secondary in the game, and I use it on all my classes, and I fucking love this weapon. Next up, the M249. So this is one is actually going to be pretty easy for me. This one is meta, so it's pretty good. Yeah, this gun is really, really good. Like, when the game first dropped, this was like the consensus third or fourth best fully automatic weapon in the game. It is still really, really good. If you pair that shit with Highwaymen, Rapid Fire, you can build it however you want, and it's going to melt people down. Super easy to use. It's meta, so it is pretty good. The MP5. Now, this is a super easy one for me. I fucking love this weapon. This is my favorite SMG in the game. If you tell me to use an SMG and I'm not grinding camos, this is the gun that I am picking. I cannot tell you why. Obviously, there's a couple more SMGs that will kill quicker, but the MP5 is just so much fun to use for me. I fucking love this weapon. No questions asked. I love it. PP19 is an interesting one because it's certainly not bad. I would say at this point it probably is underused. If I was doing this at the beginning of Season 2, it'd certainly not be underused. But I think people have realized that there are just other SMGs that can kill faster. The PP19 is like your in-between AR and SMG, and it's good at doing that. But at the end of the day, I don't really think it's that great. It's not a gun that I really go back to anymore. So I think it's underused, but it is somewhat decent in the right situations. All right, the sawed-off shotgun now. This is a tough one also. I think I am leaning towards its meta, so it's pretty good. Because at the end of the day, it's easily the most powerful secondary in the game, and it gets you out of a lot of sticky situations. My issue is that with shotguns and the pellets in this game, and the netcode being the way that it is, shotguns just tend to let you down a lot, and there's only 2 shots in there, so it's definitely not one that I fucking love, but I also don't think that it's underused because people use it, and people are pretty good with it, so I think it goes pretty well in this tier, and I don't really have crazy opinions on it past that. So yeah, that's the sawed-off. MP7, very, very easy, going right next to the sawed-off, and it's meta, so it's pretty good. Every time I'm using the MP7 and I'm just running around like crazy, it's super easy to just shred people down. You know, playing small maps, it's super easy. Still probably the best SMG. Oh, I don't know if it's the best SMG in the game at this point, but it's definitely up there. It's between that and one other that we'll get to later. But for now, it sits really easily in it's meta, so yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so here comes another surprise, I'd think. I love the SVD. I fucking love it. For whatever reason, I feel like it is better than the MK20, even though I think statistically it isn't really, besides the fact that the heavy barrel is going to one-tap non-phantoms in the head. For whatever reason, the headshot hitbox on the SVD feels enormous. I swear there are times I'm shooting guys in the chest and it gives me a one-shot headshot, and I just love the way this gun feels. It hits super hard. It is suppressive if you are really good with it, and I run this a lot. Even with all my camos done, I still have an SVD class, so this gun is really, really good. I fucking love this weapon. Next up is the RPK. This is another super easy one. This one is kind of dookie. Just like the P90 and really most of the like underwhelming full autos in this game, if you are a good shot, you're going to be able to get kills with it. It's just pretty easily the most underwhelming fully automatic weapon in the game. Every LMG will kill faster. The L86 is just a better version of what the RPK thinks it's trying to be. And so the RPK is just not good in any situation, if you ask me. So that's where the RPK is going, super easy. But yeah, that's that. Next up is the Vector, and I think this is the one that is going to challenge the MP7 for truly the best SMG in the game. If you're within shotgun distance of someone, the Vector is the best SMG in the game. But if you're just trying to be like running around, being able to kill in those mid-range gunfights, the MP7 will keep you alive more in that. But if you're using Echelon, popping up invisible and like spraying guys down with the Vector, you're going to get tons and tons of kills with this thing. It is a beast, so definitely meta and definitely really good. Next up is the ACR, which I think is like our third meta weapon out of like 4 here, but this obviously has to go here, right? Like, it is so easy to use. The ACR is just like automatic, lots of kills. If I'm ever getting shit on in a lobby, I throw on the ACR and just make it like easy mode, and usually that helps. But yeah, not a lot to say. It is still very easy to use even after the fire rate nerfs, so it is meta, and it is certainly still pretty good. So I kind of wish now that I actually looked through all this stuff and like figured out where I wanted to put it so I could actually mix it up, but no, we have another going in the meta category here. The 93R is really, really good. Like, as far as pistols go, if you're like confident in your ability to hit your shots, you can just go around and get kills with this one. It's really not bad at all. The camo grind was never anything I feared with this gun. It is really, really solid. It's probably going to be the only other secondary in the game, along with the sawed-off, going in this category. But I think those are the 2 best secondaries in the game if you ask the community, so I think that's where it should go, and yeah, it's pretty good. All right, we got the Magnum now, and this one I'm going to put in underused and somewhat decent. For whatever reason, whenever I end up using the Magnum for the camo grind, it ends up being not nearly as bad as I figure it will be. For whatever reason, I actually find myself hitting my shots with the Magnum pretty often, hitting some good body shots, getting like 2 taps on people. And if you're doing that, it's really solid. And the fact that it's a secondary means you don't have to stress about grinding it a ton. And it hits, man. It really does. People always talk about this pistol down here, which we'll get to later. But at the end of the day, as far as like a, high caliber pistol goes, this one does its job, and I think it is underused and pretty decent. Next up, we have the AA-12, which I think also sits pretty well in the underused and somewhat decent category. If this was the first month the game was out, it would not be underused, because this was like the only shotgun that could actually kill. Shotguns were trash, and the AA-12, because you could fire 1,000,000 shots, was actually pretty decent. But nowadays, you don't see a lot of people running it. You see a lot of people running the Spaz and the M870, but the AA-12 is still really, really good if you pick your spots right. If you're playing Echelon HQ, it's probably like the best gun in the game. But I don't see it around very often, so this is where it's going, and I think that makes some sense. And just like that, we are back to the meta category with the AK-47, because where else would this go? This gun is still very, very easy to use. I will say, the fire rate nerf, I feel like hit this one harder than it did with the ACR when they nerfed both of their fire rates at the same time. I would probably rather use some other weapons than the AK, but at the end of the day, if I'm using the AK, it's not hard, it still feels really good, and it's meta, and it will kill, and yeah, that is the AK. All right, now we're getting to the part of the video where it gets a little controversial, because I am putting the double barrel in kinda dookie. I do not like the double barrel at all. I think it mostly stems from the fact that I don't really trust the shotguns a ton in this game to keep me alive. And when I only have 2 shots and I can't reload very quickly, it doesn't keep me alive very much. And I get personally offended when that shit happens. So I don't like using the double barrel at all, even though shot for shot it is more powerful than the other shotties. I do not care. I don't trust it. And so it is kind of dookie. That is my opinion. All right, time for a conspiracy theory of mine. The Spaz is simply not as powerful as the M870. I know the numbers say otherwise. The Spaz is supposedly shot for shot more powerful than the M870, but no the fuck it isn't. I get way more hit markers with the Spaz than any of the other shotties besides the AA-12. I literally, so many times when I was grinding the Spaz, I would shoot a guy, turn away, and then have like a cartoon fucking dumbfounded moment when I turn back and the dude still has 20 HP left. And I, again, get offended by these things. So I don't like the Spaz very much. Besides the camo challenges and the camo grind, rather, I'm not going to be fucking with it. So yeah, it also, with the double barrel, goes in kind of dookie. We're actually going to have to, let me go ahead and shrink the screen a bit here so we can at least see that first row now. Probably have to do that a few times. So for the climax of my incredibly unpopular opinions that we just went through, I also think the Deagle is kind of dookie. I don't like it. I don't know what it is. If I'm using a super powerful single shot pistol, I'd rather use the Magnum. I don't like the D50 at all. I think it does not do enough damage for what it thinks it should be doing, and I've just never enjoyed using it in this game. I know that's like sacrilegious because it's supposed to be like the Desert Eagle of the game or whatever, but it just doesn't do it for me. It really doesn't. Sorry. All right, now that that's all over with, we got the L86 here, which I think fits pretty easily in the underused but somewhat decent category, because it is pretty decent. It's got that like AR LMG hybrid situation going on. And if you're using it like that, running around, you're going to get a lot of kills. And even if you're just hunkered down, it's an LMG, so you can get a decent amount of kills. The other LMGs are just straight up better besides the RPK, so I think this is kind of where it has to go. But yeah, not much else to say. The L86, it is underrated, underused, and somewhat decent. Next up is the L115, and I fucking love this weapon. If you're familiar with my highlight videos, I use this weapon all the time. It is so buttery smooth. I feel like it doesn't even get more hit markers than the TAC-50 does, and it shoots quicker. It is cleaner. It's just my favorite sniper in the game. Definitely a top 3 weapon for me in the game. And I fucking love this gun. It is that simple. M9, this will be short and sweet. It is kind of dookie. If you're going to use a semi-automatic pistol, just use the 1911. It's more powerful. I mean, I get that this weapon has a lot of ammo. If you put extended mags, I think it's like 30 bullets. But there's no like hardcore in the game or anything, so I don't see how that really matters at all. It's just not very good, so it's kind of dookie. On to the M16. I also fucking love this weapon. It hits so good. Put heavy barrel on, you're getting 4-shot kills on people. It is a Phantom Destroyer. It is so much fun to use. It's one of the ARs I don't fuck with Highwaymen, and I just use Echelon, pop out of invisibility, and just fucking one-burst people. It is so much fun. It is super, super strong. I fucking love it, and will continue to use it for as long as they don't nerf the shit out of it. So, yeah, I fucking love this gun. LVOA. Now, this is a tough one for me. This is a tough one for me, because I feel like I would put it right here, but I've also seen this gun in the hands of some psychos, and they absolutely shred with it. I don't think it's all that great. I would put it as like the 4th or 5th best AR in the game, but I mean, you can still succeed with it. It has a high fire rate, not a lot of recoil. I think it's really, really, I don't know, man. Do I put it in? It's definitely not meta because of like the AK and the ACR. I think it's got to go here, but it probably, as it stands right now, is the best weapon in this category. All right, next up, we got the M44, and we're just going to put that there. And yeah, all right, the M870. I fucking love this weapon. It is so much fun to use. Talk about like popping out and killing people with the Echelon invisibility. This shotgun is the king of that. It feels so, so strong. You throw a heavy barrel on there, barrel extender, you're going to be getting 1-shot kills at a surprising range. It feels stronger than some of the other shotguns that are supposedly stronger. So I fucking love this weapon. If I'm using a shotgun, it is this one. It is so much fun to use. I fucking love it. You'll see tons of highlights from me with it. And yeah, that is that. I fucking love the M870. The M4A1. I think that's, yeah, it's got to go in kind of dookie. It's, again, it's an AR that, you know, handles like an AR, performs like an AR. It's just not as good in any category as some of the other ARs in the game. So I think that's where you kind of lose me, and it has to go into this category. But if you force me to use an M4A1, I'm probably not going to have a terrible time. But in the context of the rest of the ARs and the rest of the weapons in the game, I think it does have to be kind of dookie. Oh, this might be the toughest one here, the M60. Because in my opinion, it is far and wide the second best LMG in the game. But if you're going to use a really good LMG, you're going to use the M249. So the M60 kind of doesn't have a place for that reason, but it's also certainly better than the L86, right? Oh, this is so tough. I don't think, is it meta? I don't know. I've seen some people using it. Some good players. All right, I'm going to put it in underused and somewhat decent solely because of the existence of the M249. But if we get transported to a timeline where the M249 does not exist, this one easily slides up to meta because it is really, really good. It shreds people. Like in escort specifically, you can just lay people down with the M60. But I think in the context of our specific tiers here, it kind of doesn't really have a home, so this is where it's going to go. Next up, we have the MDR, and I fucking love this one too. As far as the fully automatic AR goes, I've been gravitating towards this one. It is so much fun to use, maybe because it's a little more mobile and a little more SMG-like, so I like it because I like to rush and get in people's faces, stuff like that. But honestly, it feels good at range too. The update they put out for it, it was like earlier mid-season 1. Since then, it has been a machine, and I have really fallen in love with it. It and the M16 are really the only ARs I like really like to use. So that's where it's gonna go, because I fucking love this weapon. All right, we got 2 more weapons hiding down here, and I think the MK20 is going to go in meta. It is really, really strong. It has a higher fire rate than the SVD. It will 2-tap people when you have heavy barrel on there. And I never had a problem with this gun. It is really, really solid. I still prefer the SVD, but at the end of the day, both of the marksman rifles in this game are super, super strong. And, you know, good players, this weapon in the hands of good players is going to kill people. That is for sure. It is really, really solid, and it is meta, so that's where it goes. And lastly, we have the weapon that sort of encapsulates the meta category as a whole, and that is the TAC-50. When this game first came out, this was the original "you're fucking dead" sniper if you saw that it was staring at you. And yeah, that's just how it was. This flinch wasn't very crazy. You know, the aim assist is what it is. And it's just pretty easy to hit shots with it and get kills with it. And if you don't want any hit markers at all, this is the weapon you use. And yeah, it's meta. It's going to kill people in the hands of a decent player, and that's where it goes. All right, so that is that. Let me go ahead and get this a little smaller so we can actually include the M44. But yeah, this is the final tier list right here. Let me know what y'all think, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. But yeah, this was pretty fun, and maybe I'll do something different for season 3. Maybe I do some other tier lists if I can come up with some creative ways to do it. But yeah, that was that. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I will catch you later.